Hey, welcome to Who Touched the Thermostat. Throwing together last minute little setup outside. We'll see how it goes. Looks like audio's coming through. All right. Still trying to figure out everything. Obviously, I threw this setup outside real quick. So you'll have to let me know if the uh, sound is unbearable or whatever. I'll just end the live, but I'm pretty sure that I think it'll be all right. Cool. All right. So, hey, welcome to Who Touched the Thermostat. I did a little poll again today, and the results are funny because I was joking about doing cat recipes, but of course I don't have any of those, and of course most of the people who follow me thought it'd be hilarious to go ahead and make that their choice. But uh, anyway, so here we are. Uh, Tonight we're gonna kind of chit chat a little bit about some of the whys for why I homeschool, why you should homeschool, uh, and just get into some random dad stuff. But right here. Okay. So I guess I'll kind of start off by saying that uh, I do homeschool. Um, we we homeschool, unschool, kind of don't go about any kind of hard curriculum. Our kids aren't uh, old enough yet to really dive into anything. It's all the basics, reading, math, and that kind of thing. But I knew from a young age that I was going to homeschool my kids. I was asked this a couple nights ago on an X Spaces, and it happened well beyond before I even thought about having kids because I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, and went to Jefferson County public school system. And while I had some great teachers and some teachers I'm still technically like friends with, they were friends of my family. Um, Overall, the system and the things that I saw uh, broke up my trust. And I thought forward, I was like, I'd never send my kid to this. Now, whenever I was in seventh grade, my mom did pull me out, and I actually did homeschool while I was in seventh grade. Because whenever I was in seventh grade was whenever my dad got really, really sick and had a liver transplant. And during that time, there's a lot of kids that were picking on me, picking fights. So I was getting in a lot of fights, and they were joking about my dying dad. So I fought a lot of kids, and um, my mom decided that it'd be best to just kind of let me be at home through all the stuff that we were going through and whatnot. And I played sports, I played basketball, and ultimately I chose. I told my mom I wanted to go back to public school. In hindsight, I think both myself and my mom probably uh, would have rather do homeschool, knowing everything that we know now. Hindsight's 2020, but um, anyway, so whenever I was in school, I saw all kinds of things from kids that were being left behind from a education standpoint, but I also saw a extensive amount of violence at school, and not really anything being done about it, and people not being held accountable. And we used to joke all the time because at the beginning of the new school year, we used to get booklets that were like the code of conduct for public school students. And I came along with a paper that talked about like the reported guns, drugs, weapons, fights, all that stuff throughout the school district. And the um, the the reports that would come out, we would laugh because we're like, there's more than this just in this one school, not including the rest of the middle schools, high schools, elementary schools, in this giant school system anyways. And so we used to think it was hilarious because we knew that there was more stuff going on than they were reporting to the public. And that still carries with me today, thinking back about what they tell you about what's going on and what they don't tell you, and what they convince kids to, like, just ignore it or don't tell your parents. And that there's a lot of things that, looking back, I can tell you that I wouldn't have been necessarily exposed to, besides in public school. And as I started talking to more people, there's a lot of things that people witnessed or were experienced, either on the bus or at school or by a teacher or whatever, that is insane, that we would willfully hand our kids over or put them into these situations with no safeguards. It's just crazy to me. But anyways, some of the things that I actually had made, I was going to set it up, but I couldn't get it to where it pop up on the screen. I'm still learning how to manipulate all this here, but I started talking to some people and I was like, hey, can I jot these down, or can you send me like a little write-up of like some of the things that you experienced? So I'll kind of go through some of them. A few of these are mine, and I'll elaborate a little bit because I know I was there. But like this one here was a friend of mine who said that this was from a female friend of mine, that the first manhood that she ever saw was on a school bus in the 4th grade. And she said you can imagine what 2 teens were doing at the back of the bus while everyone watched. So you have a mixture of elementary school kids, middle school kids, high school kids. I know we went through busing in Louisville, so you would ride a bus to a depot with all the kids of your age in the morning, get on a bus that went to your school, and vice versa. On the way home, you'd come from your school and switch buses. And so one way in the morning, one way in the afternoon, it was all ages, all different ages, different parts of the school system. So that's one of them. And then one thing for me, this is one that happened to me actually while I'm homeschooling my kid. I decided one day we were going to take her to the park with another homeschool family to go play and stuff and whatever, and they were running around having a good time, and they had some toys, like a bag of whatever, like plastic toy animals and dinosaurs and just little random things, right? And right around the time that school lets out, you could tell that, like, all of a sudden there's public school kids everywhere, and some kids come over and they want to start playing, which we're like, okay, that's fine or whatever. But like almost instantaneously, there's 3 boys that were 2nd grade, 3rd grade, maybe not even that old, honestly, maybe like 1st grade, like 6 or 7 years old. They came over and like immediately started simulating great with these toy animals, and like violently, and like cussing and all kinds of crazy stuff, right? And I'm like, yo, what is going on? This is not happening. My kid has none of this in her life. I don't need this. Y'all need to go. And so I kind of shooed them away, got my kid, moved my kid, and my wife was standing there. She was like, what was that? And I was like, I have no idea. So I'm watching over my kid, and we give her space to run and play and stuff, but still within earshot to see what's going on. And I mean, these kids are running around cussing and I mean, saying heinous things, not just hells and damns and stuff or whatever. Like they're using the language to its fullest extent, and with like hatred, with like that dark passion, right? So that was just nuts to me, and it kind of tied in because I have a friend of mine that works in the public school system in Orlando, and he was talking about how he works with IT and stuff. So he goes and has to reformat some of these laptops that kids get. And he tells me all the time, he's like, dude, there's first, second, third, fourth graders, you name it, whatever, that have adult content on their computer that's crazier than things that he's ever seen in his adult life. And he's like, it's all the time. It's not just like a one-off, thing. He's like, all the time. It's constant. So you have kids that are 6, 7 years old. They're just watching adult content on their laptops and stuff, wherever, taking it home. Who knows what's going on there? If it's older sibling that's watching it with them, whatever. Who knows? I don't know. But all I know is the public school system's handing them a computer, and they're accessing all this adult content, storing it on the computer, and easily accessing it, on repeat. So it was around that time that happened that he was telling me some stories, and I was like, yo, what is going on? We have 6-year-old kids that are stimulating grape and watching hardcore adult content in and on public school property, right? And so that's a pretty big reason why I choose not to hand my kids over to strangers. But another thing is I sit there and I talk to people all the time that think about it or don't have kids school age yet and are like, yeah, we don't know. We might do public school or we may homeschool or whatever. And I tell them, I'm like, all right, have you ever thought about the time, the time that you get with your kids, the time that you don't get with your kids, and who gets that time? Because on average, kids spend about 50 hours traveling to and from school and in school, right? And then the average is actually lower than 20, but the one that I looked at was where I was looking it up. It's around 20. You get about 20 hours at home during the regular week, and a lot of that time is taken up by homework, baths, just eating dinner. I hope at the very least that you're eating dinner at the table as a family. But a lot of times that's not the case. So you start looking at that, and then you look at the time that you have on the weekend, and you compare it to how much time the school system and the teachers and everybody have exposure and everything, and building trust and bonding with your kid compared to what you have. To me, being a product of the public school system and now being a homeschool parent and looking at all the milestones we watch, the growth, the extra hugs, all that good stuff is definitely worth it. And I wouldn't trade it for the world, no matter what kind of sacrifice I had to make. If we had to live in a small little shack and, really downsize our life in every way, shape, and form, the last thing that I would sacrifice is the ability to homeschool, and the ability to be able to watch them grow and be able to give them the tools they need so that whenever they do end up facing the world, that they have the knowledge and the skill sets and stuff to properly deal with, the good and the bad that the real world brings, right? And obviously another thing that I bring up to people, especially people that are either conservative or libertarian or, at the forefront capitalist mindset, free market people, the majority of public schools, pretty much all public schools and teachers and staff answer to some type of teachers union. Most of those teachers unions, when you go and you listen to the people that run them and how they speak, they're socialists, they're Marxists, they're commies. Okay. So once again, not all teachers are, right? But it's the whole everybody says like all cops are bad, right? And it's like, well, you look at it and you break it down, and it's like, well, if you have 10 good cops and 100 bad cops, if those 10 good cops aren't doing anything, whatever. So the same kind of thing applies to really anything, whether it's teachers or the medical field, any of those things. If you're not calling out the bad and you're not holding people accountable or exposing the truth, not so great. So for me, looking at the teachers I know that they're not Marxists. Um, they're not commies. They're not in that mindset, and they love teaching kids. They're good at it, um, but they're surrounded by a system that upholds values that they don't believe in. So it puts you in a weird place. But the thing is that I can tell you from going through the public school system, talking to other people, like there's only a handful of those teachers that are objectively good and don't get down with any of the Marxist ideology. A lot of them will bend into it, even if they don't necessarily believe in it, which is a problem for me. If I'm handing my kids to you to be trusted, to take care of them, to lead them, to teach them, to educate them, and make them grow, and you're so easily, consumed by Marxist values, it's a problem for me. That's a problem for me, big time. And so, that's another reason. You can add it to the list of reasons why I homeschool. Another friend of mine was talking about just in general learning about sex and different things wherever they were in kindergarten. Another friend of mine, wherever they were in kindergarten, said that essentially another kindergartner was raped on the school bus by older kids multiple times before anything was actually done, and she witnessed it. Whenever I was in like second, third grade, when we go to the computer lab, I remember kids talking about and actively masturbating. And that's a wild thing to me because at the time I had no idea any of that, what that was. Like, whatever. I don't even know how that happens. Obviously, I think now looking back, those kids probably were victims of something, right, to get there. But it was wild to me that I was very much like, hey, that's mine. That's private. That's not for anybody else at that age. And then here you have like multiple kids, like it's not a big deal to them. And I didn't realize, I knew it was wrong, I guess, or I knew that it was messed up, obviously, like it kind of whatever, but it wasn't, for whatever reason, I was in a mind state where I didn't say anything. Whether it was like I didn't want to be a snitch or whatever, but I didn't tell my mom this until I was like in high school. And it's just weird stuff, right? Like obviously there's something more going on with those kids, but that's what you don't know who all the kids are that you're sending your kids into a public school system. And obviously like the teacher would leave the room full of 8-year-olds to themselves for 15-20 minutes to go print copies of whatever, typing sheets or whatever the heck. I don't know, who knows, whatever. And I mean, it wasn't just one time, it was a fairly regular occurrence. And oh yeah, I forgot about this one. So whenever I was in middle school, I actually was playing in like a teachers versus students or the boys basketball team. I was playing in like a pep rally thing, right? And in the middle of us playing, a girl was jumped and stabbed multiple times in like up in the stands, and like they tackled her down to the ground, and it was craziness because nobody knew that she was stabbed necessarily right at first until we ran over with some of the bigger teachers and stuff, and we were trying to pull people off and whatever, and they saw blood. But also that was never actually a reported story. That never, I mean, those students got in trouble, and the girl obviously, like, her parents knew, but it was like nothing ever happened. There's nothing in the news. My mom never knew about it until like years later. Whenever I was like, "Hey, do you remember this?" She was like, "Nope, no idea that happened." I'm like, "Yeah, it definitely happened. I was there." So another thing of violence, which I have the shirt that I made that has the Who Touched the Thermostat logo on the front, and then on the back has a chalkboard with Michael Malice's quote that government schools, are like one of the only places that kids will ever experience or witness violence in their lifetime. And that really spoke to me because I saw violence all the time in public school, all the time. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just sitting here, it's already real, and there's other memories of people getting jumped and thrown over cafeteria tables and stuff or whatever. I swear I thought this kid broke his neck one time because they came up and like picked him up and ran up on top of the cafeteria table and slammed him down. And I remember seeing his head hit one of the little round seats, and the way that his neck crumpled sideways, I swore that they broke his neck. And just it's one of the multiple instances that I can recall clear as day. I can pretty much see the kid's face still, and that was a long time ago. And the one other thing that I experienced was whenever I was a sophomore in high school and I was in geometry. The teacher was really, really weird, and he wanted to take pictures of all the students to make a seating chart because he claimed he was bad with memory and faces and names and stuff. And us kids, we're like, okay, whatever, all teachers do weird stuff, so it was like we sat there and had our pictures taken and stuff wherever, and he made a seating chart, so I saw a seating chart and stuff and whatever. And some time had passed, and the girl I was dating at the time was in that class, and he had made a comment about it being cold to her because he could see signs. And I kind of freaked out, and I was getting ready to fight him, and I ultimately got removed, and my mom got called, all that good stuff. And then I started failing. She started failing. We moved out of that class into another, there wasn't another geometry class, so we got moved in some like college algebra class or something or whatever. And like a week after that, a student aide had been working on his computer and found tons of photoshopped prawn with students' faces, plastered on to the images. And it became this big deal. Of course, like he was put on administrative leave. And the crazy part about this is that whenever I was thinking about this, I went to go look it up to see if I could pull like the documents and everything that came out about it. And it's pretty much wiped from the face of everything. I even contacted the school board and stuff trying to see if I could get like an information request, and it was impossible. And I remember talking to my mom and talking to a friend of mine that went to school with us at the time, and they were like, yeah, we remember that definitely happened. And we were looking up, and they were like, you can't find anything. I was like, I know, that's pretty crazy. But in hindsight, like we didn't really follow up on it to see if he got charged at the time, because we had lives going on. My dad was still really sick. He got his liver transplant, but my dad would only live like another 6 to 8 months after that. So wasn't really at the forefront of our mind necessarily either. So yeah, but that definitely happened. And then as I started telling that story to other people, there's other people that say like very similar stories, not necessarily the seating chart, but similar creepy stories. And those are all points that drove me to homeschool my kids and to dedicate that as something that our family was going to be a homeschool family. And now, as I've been removed from the public school system as a student for over a decade, more than over a decade, but over a decade, and looking at other people's kids and looking at the news, the stuff that's coming out from here and there, lives TikTok, all this stuff that pops up. And people can claim that it's not happening everywhere, but I can tell you that it definitely is. And I'm in Southwest Florida. It's definitely happening here. I've talked to parents. I've seen what happens at the school boards at my county, the county over from us. All the woke stuff, all the crazy stuff that you hear about is definitely happening at varying different levels. Different schools are different ways a little bit, but it's all really happening. It's a big part of what's going on. I have multiple friends that actually homeschool now that their wives were public school teachers. And one of the reasons why they became homeschool families were because they worked in the public school system. They saw everything from the inside out and decided that they weren't ever going to put their kids, they weren't going to put their kids through that, you know? Now, I also have a lot of friends of mine that still put their kids in public school. And my biggest thing for them is like, hey, pay attention, be super involved, ask as many questions as possible, and make sure your kid knows that you are a team, not the schools and them against you, and squash that. Because even some of my friends are like, I can see some things where my kids like questioning me about morality and things of that nature or whatever. And, you know, it's really hard to fight back after the kid's been in the system for 8, 9, 10 years plus, you know, because it's constantly, it's slowly leaked in, you know. And I remember being in elementary school and writing, I found it whenever I was going through stuff and kind of consolidating, consolidating whatever memory stuff, you know, whatever the stuff that your mom collects, you know, pictures and whatnot. And I found a little book that I wrote, and it was like socialist garbage. Whenever I looked at it, whenever I was reading it, and I was sitting there, I was like, this is 100% because like this is what we were being fed. It was like, you know, I bet you could probably go and find every kid in that class, and it was all very similar. You know, I doubt any kid, you know, second, third grade or wherever, we're talking about like preserving people's rights, you know, to own firearms or anything like that. You know, it was all like social programs. Like if I became president, you know, I would do all this and make people help other people and do this kind of thing. And while, you know, my heart and soul is focused on the betterment of people and helping others, it's not like that. And you know, I'm glad that I've grown and learned and understand the ways of maybe that worked. Sorry guys, I just trying to test this out. If the sound of trucks and stuff going by, because I do live in Florida, so everybody's, you know, dragged out, just let me know, and I'll have to either figure out another option or go back to doing inside. But anyway, so all right, so John says, can situational awareness be taught by witnessing violence? Violence is an integral part of nature. Islands are created by violence. Countries are established through violence. Walk softly and carry a big stick. Yeah, I mean, I think so, or I know so. I think that there are definitely some. There are definitely things that I know from witnessing and experiencing violence that other people that have never experienced or seen it or whatever would have the opportunity to even understand what that feels like, looks like, etc. And you know, I think that there are a lot of people that probably should have been punched in the mouth at least once in their life, and not from a violent standpoint, but there's a lot of people that talk crazy to people and treat people like absolute dirt. And you know, I know growing up, if I would have treated people like that, somebody would have put me on my butt, you know, put me in the dirt, and we would have been scrapping. So yeah, I think that situational awareness can be taught in other ways. I guess is kind of what I was leaning into, is that there's other ways to do it in kind of in somewhat of a controlled environment. Now, obviously, um, as you get older, uh, everything your lens and stuff will open up. Um, so whenever you get older, if you're taking mixed martial arts and stuff or whatever, and you're just doing forms and doing some light sparring and stuff, wherever, and grappling and everything, up to like 10 years old or whatever. But then whenever you turn like 11 to 13, like you get more access to like a little bit more violence, a little bit more like raw fighting. And then like beyond that, like, you get into like true like MMA, cage fighting, UFC type stuff. Those are all varying levels of violence, and all of them teach you how to respond and create an opportunity to learn situational awareness. But it is in it is in kind of a guided and guarded atmosphere, where whenever I was at school, there was a time where a kid got his jaw shattered from another kid bringing in brass knuckles. There's other kids that would bring in like socks with batteries and stuff in them and beat people with them. And there was also a couple people that got stabbed by pins and anything that had a point, right? So, sure, will that teach situational awareness? Yes. Do I want, whatever, my 7-year-old or my 12-year-old or what have you, learning situational awareness that way? No. Do I think that's what John necessarily means? No, but just taking it for what it is and kind of extrapolating on that comment and what I see. But yeah, I think that a lot of people misinterpret that. Like, I don't. I guess some homeschool parents do super shelter their kids, and I do create a safe learning atmosphere and have barriers to an extent. But my kid also isn't 100% helicoptered and like locked down, right? And she's given opportunities to grow and go do things and interact with adults, and talk to people. And also, like, one of the biggest things for me, which I thought I was going to have a boy my first go around, and then I'm having girls. So I roughhouse all the time because I learned and read that simulated fighting, is really good for self-esteem, and really good for building usable muscle mass. Where, like, if you're just curling weights and stuff, wherever, that's great. But like being able to move and being able to manipulate your body and being able to pull yourself out and get out of holds and that kind of thing or whatever, obviously is a much better way to get everything working. So I roughhouse and wrestle all the time, even with my girls, and I will with my soon-to-be son. So, yeah, I mean, situational awareness is very important because there's a lot of people that don't keep their head on swivel, don't pay attention. I carry all the time, so I'm always looking and paying attention to where I'm at, what I'm doing, how I'm even holding things. Like, I try to keep either keep my hand free on my draw side, hand free, or I have a plan. Mentally, I'm already like, all right, well, I can drop this if I really need to, those types of things. And, my wife knows, she sees me wherever we go out to eat or when we go to places wherever I'm checking the doors and stuff. But there's some people that are oblivious. And unfortunately, whenever evil does come lurking, that situational awareness is deadly if you don't have it, right? And the situations with schools is the same way. There's just not, if the teachers aren't going to be armed to protect the students, if you're not going to allow security to be armed besides one resource officer or whatever, then the next best thing that you can do is provide a building that's built and ready to lock down appropriately. Like, I've seen where some of these schools that are guardian schools or wherever are set up to where the doors will shut where they believe the assailant is, right? So they can't escape. They can't go roaming through the halls. They're stuck in like a whatever, a segment that has like 4 doorways to it, right? And like that's something. But then other than that, like really teaching kids not to be not just to be afraid and hide in the corner and shut up, but like be strategic and learn ways to be able to adapt and take care of a situation and work through it, together, and be able to have more of a plan than just no plan. And hiding on your desk or hiding in a corner is it's not optimal. But beyond that, like I made my T-shirt "Arm the School Children," and it was kind of a joke, but it definitely drives conversation. And the conversation for me is that if the teachers aren't going to arm themselves, if you're not going to have armed guards at the school, then at the very least, let the ultimate victim have the opportunity to defend themselves. Now, obviously on its face, and because of the way that society is and stuff, wherever, it's a ridiculous notion, but it also brings up the fact that not too long ago, there was, school students that would go to school with a rifle or a shotgun in the back glass of their truck. Okay. That wasn't that long ago. It was just a little bit before I was born. Okay. Now, beyond that, I have a rifle in the house that belonged to my great grandfather that was ordered out of a Sears robot catalog. He carried it at the age of 6, and it has a tube magazine that holds 18 rounds. Don't quote me on that. I have to go back and double check. I thought about it the other day when somebody asked me. It might be 13, but anyway, 13 to 18. That's more than a small pistol magazine. He walked around with a rifle at the age of 6, and to my knowledge, there's no bodies on that gun. Okay, now obviously nobody wants to focus on the real issues or look at what's going on with all the SSRIs that kids are being put on, because boys are getting put into elementary school, and like immediately they're like, they don't sit down, they don't focus. And it's like, no, duh. Like, they're not built for that. No kid really is. It's not really meant to be that way, especially at that young. And which is another reason why we homeschool, because on average, most homeschoolers I know spend less than 2 hours a day on actual curriculum, on actual sit-down learning. Most of your learning is done throughout the day, doing chores, learning how to cook, learning how to just do things in general, little small tasks, being able to enjoy, the outdoors and look at stuff and examine trees and grass and everything else. People always creep me out because they drive slow past my house. Sometimes we just stop out front. If you see me wondering, it's because I'm got situational awareness. I'm paying attention to weirdos, which maybe I'm the weirdo because I'm sitting out here with the ring light and studio microphone and laptop sitting outside. But yeah, so I don't know. Situational awareness can come in other ways, I guess, is the ultimate thing. And I think that it's violence in schools is just bad. There's nothing compares, that my daughter has witnessed or come across, the things that by her age, even how young she is, the things that I'd already experienced and witnessed in public school. Not including the things that, I've learned from other people that have kids her age, that things that they've come home and said that happened to them or they saw happen, or letters that have been sent home with students and stuff that are my kids' age. So yeah, I mean, there's tons of reasons. The ones that I gave are a short list. There's tons of other things. And I feel like as I go on and realize as we're doing this homeschool family, that we'll see other things that we're like, oh man, like this is not something you can do in public school. And speaking of the tragic type situations, just this past week, there was a threat for the school right down the road. And luckily, the police department here has little to nothing to do and they jumped on it quick, fast, in a hurry. Had the dude that made the threat arrested within about an hour and a half, and had units patrolling the outside of the school overnight, and extra units stationed at the school and in the school the day of, just in case there was, a secondary, which there was rumors that there were, but so that's good. They jumped on it, which Florida does have like the Guardian program, so they do have it set up with sheriff's departments and stuff or whatever, with more resources and access to be able to have armed guards, and teachers and staff and whatever have some options to be able to be armed as well, which is fantastic, because if you're gonna send your kid to public school, I would much rather him be in a place that has armed staff, just in case, and so down in Florida, at least there is that opportunity. Now, it doesn't mean that they use it, and I know I've heard some places that, like, some of the counties and stuff are not as friendly to it, don't really accept it or allow it, and there's still a lot of stuff going on about, like, whose jurisdiction and how much the state or whatever can make a public, a county abide by it or allow it or push for it. So yeah. Now, like I said, there's tons of other things that I've learned and watched through other homeschoolers, and learning how other people are doing homeschool. And more people I see don't follow like a hardcore curriculum. They kind of find what they want to do, and lead a lot with what the kid is interested in. Now, obviously, you want to build the basics, and I tell everybody, like, if you can teach a kid to read, and you're in really good shape, because then you can get curriculum, math curriculum, science, whatever, and you can start reading through it with them. They can read through it, they can learn on their own, and it's a tool that will be useful throughout their life, and they'll be able to learn anything, good, bad, ugly, what have you, but they'll be able to learn, and you can put things in front of them, and they could essentially teach themselves how to do anything, math, science, learn about history. But the other core part about that is as a family, as parents that are leading the students in homeschool, you get to either relearn or learn something new altogether. And all you have to know is how to read, right? You can join in and learn with your kid, relearn, and go through and do projects together, and be able to expand your mind while also, being on that journey with your kid and watching them grow and watching them be excited about what they're learning, and just be involved, see all the stuff unfold before your eyes, and also be able to course correct, because there's sometimes that curriculum doesn't work, and whenever it's in public school, you're SOL. But with homeschool, you can either pick up new curriculum, or you can even go find local programs. There's a lot of free stuff out there. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't cost a whole lot, but you can get your kids into extra help, find things that may be a better way of teaching them. They may be a better visual learner or hands-on learner, and you can cater to that either through your own teaching and your own curriculum at home, or find other people that specialize in that curriculum and be able to give them what they need. And I was just talking to a guy the other day that was saying that his kid struggled with math, and they put him in I can't remember the name of it now, of course, but it's a fairly well-known, like, math accelerated tutorship type thing. And he ended up, he got to the point where he was competing in math, where, like, he was struggling to do, like, long division. And so that's really, really cool, because it was like a couple years, and he went from being, like, in a difficult spot with math and, like, stuck, to being, exceptional in math and, outperforming his peers. And most of the time, schools don't have the ability, don't have the space, time, and everything. And occasionally they can move kids, up a grade or into a different program, honors program, advanced program stuff. That's great, but that doesn't take care of the whole problem. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes, it does enough to get them up, another level. So, I guess the other thing we're going to talk about, I'll try to kind of wrap up here unless people have questions or want to chime in with comments, either about their experiences in public school or maybe questions they have about homeschool and stuff. I'll be glad to kind of answer those. Probably go for another like 10 minutes or so. But another thing, this goes more into the random dad kind of stuff. And I was thinking this morning, with whenever I was dealing with my youngest and was thinking about my boy coming in a few months, and was thinking about my dad, and thinking about the relationship I have with my girls, and then the relationship I'll have with my boy. And my dad, whenever he was right before he went in for his liver transplant, called me in alone, and I talked to him, and he told me that something went wrong, that I'd be the man of the house, and that I'd have to take care of my brother and my mom and those things. And at 13 years old, obviously I cried. It was upsetting and stuff. And I thought, I talked to the doctors. I knew that there was a chance that he may not make it. And so that went through my mind then, but it hit me probably for the first time this morning, ever in the way of what he may have felt like looking at me, his firstborn son, and and making that preparation. And kind of tore me up a little bit. I cried a little bit, but I guess it kind of brought me closer to my dad's memory, and thinking about the things that I will be able to do with my son, my kids, and try to make the best of every day. And I encourage everybody to really grab life by the horns and run wild with your kids, have fun, make memories, and really cement things in their mind so that whenever they're gone, or whenever you're gone, especially if you're gone early, that they have something to recall. I tell my oldest every night that I love her and that I'll see her in the morning. And, one day I won't be there the next morning, whether it's sooner and later or way late in life when she's married and has kids and everything. But, I hope to leave a lasting imprint, something that she can remember and smile about and be thankful for. I'm also weird because obviously, like, whenever I was growing up, we had video cameras and stuff, but it wasn't like just flipping your phone out and taking a video and stuff. So it was kind of few and far between. I still got to get some VHSs converted over. But I don't have any video or audio of my dad. So I don't have any. I remember 5 or 6 years ago, I broke down and was talking to my wife, and I was like, I don't even remember what my dad sounds like. And so since then, now whenever I record videos, not all the time, but a lot of times. So there's a bunch of videos out there, but I'll record my kids and I'll call them by name and say, hey, I love you. And, it's just one of those weird things, I guess, from losing a parent early that, I want my kids to have that. But I tell other people, I'm like, you may not have lost a parent young. Maybe you have, But we have so much cool stuff. We have this technology and everything, and leave footprints, leave memories, leave things that they can tap into and be able to recall and stuff. Because yeah, it digs up some stuff. But man, if I could hear my dad say he loved me, kind of at whim, whenever I want to, that'd be pretty helpful. It'd be pretty nice to just hear his voice, think about him, remember him, keep trudging on. So anyway, it's kind of a weird side random dad stuff. But whenever I put up my my whole random dad stuff came in. Well, technically it came in third because cat recipes came in first. Reasons why I homeschool came in second, and then random dad stuff came in third. But like I said, don't have any cat recipes, so that was supposed to be a joke. But yeah, so I guess that's my little random dad stuff for tonight. And unless anybody hated the sound, I don't know. I mean, for me, I can hear it because obviously I'm out here, but I don't know how much it's feeding through the mic. So if anybody wants to either leave a comment or later on hit me in my DMs and tell me if it was just awful, I'll try to check out I'll go probably rewatch it this weekend or wherever and see what I think about it. But I'm also more critical, so maybe some people don't mind it as much as what I would think. But anyways, I had a fun time kind of chit-chatting and talking about one of the things I love most, which is homeschooling and pulling my kids out public school, and some of the horrible things that convinced me to make that decision. So it's up to you. If you homeschool, put your kids in public school, but I'd love it if you pulled them out, homeschooled them, found a way to make it happen. And, if you can't, you can't. But if you have questions, my DMs are always open to help people and put people in the right, direction for homeschool advice, or, give you a pat on the back and say you can do it. Whatever you need, hit me up. I'll probably do more videos and stuff about some homeschool stuff in the future. Be sure to check me out on my shirts and everything at whotouched.com. I have several, including this one, the Department of Education failing your kids since 1980, since 1979 was whenever it was voted in March. I think it was March of 1980 is whenever it went into effect. And if you look at the rankings, we went from like first in the world to 24th or 25th in the world as far as education goes. So been doing a bang up job, I can tell you that. But I appreciate people that hung with me live, and see you again in another whatever, second Friday. Yeah, not next Friday, but the Friday after, because we're doing this every other Friday as far as I know, unless people want me to do it more. Maybe I'll switch nights. I don't know. We'll see. But it's been fun. Thanks everybody for hanging, and I'll see you next time.